so good to see you all again. Here with us.
Don't be frightened. Look at this little Scarecrow. Why is this cruel? He doesn't like humans too much. Now, take a while, sit down, and listen to the tales I have.
Every Tuesday at 4 p.m., I have to watch The Sloth Man. It was written by Ritual 83 and was narrated by Jack Sanders. The Sloth Man doesn't look much like a sloth at all. He's named that for the speed at which he moves. He looks more like a pale, skin-wrapped skeleton. His limbs have a yellowish tint to them, as if constantly covered in old bruises. His fingers are like fat sausages, adorned with tiny hooks where a normal man's fingers would have fingernails. His face is puffy, as if the visage of a much heavier person had been transported to this beanpole's physique. His eyes are sunken and gray. His mouth has a constant curving smile, which hides his jaw, which on several occasions I've seen stretch open wider than a dog's. The Sloth Man is constantly nude. My friend Marty, God rest his soul, tried to leave some old clothes he had at home for the Sloth Man to wear. Marty was always a little creeped out by the Sloth Man's nakedness. The skinny nags, the pulsating veins on the inner thighs, the genitals. Oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. That's so obviously what they were. When we had checked on him a few days later, we saw he had been airing the sweatpants and the t-shirt Marty had left there to shreds and had started building a nest. I'm not quite sure if he understands what clothes even are. When we enter his enclosure wearing our standard issued zoo gear, I wondered if he thinks those are our coveralls or just our skins. Maybe he thinks the air mask we wear to keep out his emissions are actually our own faces. I wonder if the Sloth Man is as horrified as us as we are by him. I already got caught by him 3 or 4 months back. It wasn't a cleaning. We do that with a modified garden hose and from a distance. The Sloth Man gets so caught up by the pressure of the water that he ignores everything else around him. No, this was during a feeding. You might be wondering what the Sloth Man even eats. We found he had something of a taste for lower shelf cat food. Friskies, Fancy Feast, Whiskas, anything we can get cheaply. The problem is the metal cans. We can't afford giving the Sloth Man anything that could be used as a weapon or turned into one of his nest. We have been told the Sloth Man wants to hibernate. He always wants to hibernate, and we can't let that happen. Never let the Sloth Man nest and sleep is the official instructions. No, they won't tell us why. Marty was scooping a can of beef Fancy Feast into the Sloth Man's dish when it took notice of him. Like he said, he doesn't look like a sloth, but he sure as hell moves like one. Slow, lazily, deliberate movements. It slowly pulled itself from its huddle spot next to the refrigeration unit. Every joint clicked as he stretched upwards. Slothman stood some 8.5 feet tall when upright. It clocked its head to the left, watching Marty as he scooped the third of 4 cans into the Slothman food dish. Psst! I hissed. Marty looked back at me. I gestured to him to look back at his right-hand side. He glanced at the Sloth Man, who had taken a single pensive step towards him. Marty looked back at me and nodded. I could see it in his eyes. He was deciding if opening the last can was possible in the time he had left. He pulled out the last can of Fancy Feast from the rubber bag that they were being carried in. He pulled the ring, and using a big plastic spoon that we assigned for the test, scooped out the cat food quickly and diligently. The Sloth Man had made 3 more steps toward Marty. It watched him like a cat watches a squirrel through the living room. As much curiosity as there was predatory instinct in its sunken, sleep-deprived eyes. Marty quickly shifted the metal cans in his hand and dropped them into the rubber bag. My heart jumped into my throat. He dropped one. No big deal usually, except that it rolled away, past the Sloth Man, halfway across the Sloth Man enclosure, behind the large grandfather clock that inexplicably sat on the far side of the room. Rumor was it that he had found inside the grandfather clock decades ago, before he had been delivered to the zoo, before he had come into our lives. Marty ducked across the room towards the clock, deftly avoiding the outstretched sausage fingers of the monster in the case. He dove to the ground and started feeling around the base for the errant empty can. Psst, I called again. Marty looked right at me and nodded. We had to get that can. We both knew that. The Sloth Man could not be left with the easily manipulated metal. The damage he could cause to himself and others would be irresponsible. Psst. I hissed again, this time not at him, but at the Sloth Man who was still lowly shuffling towards the man shambling on all fours around the grandfather clock. The Sloth Man ignored me. Psst. I tried one more time. I tried to catch the Sloth Man's attention. Marty! I tried to grab Marty's attention. The thing was so close to him. So near. Its long arms reached out for the coverall-clad man. Long sausages squirmed towards him. And just like that, it was upon him. The small hooks buried their way into his back and neck. I hit the panic button near the observation window, and the guards were there in moments. Guns out, ready to fire. Two of them held long poles, ready to prod, poke, or even bludgeon the beast. It took about 5 minutes to separate the Sloth Man from his dinner. Marty was barely recognizable as a human, having most of his vital fluids drained from his body through those hooks. He looked mummified. I was reprimanded, mostly due to the fact that the responsible party was no longer alive to answer for his mistakes. We have a new feeding protocol now. Marty's family was fed some lie about him falling into a tiger enclosure, and his corpse was altered to match the story. Today, I have to go and wash the Sloth Man. I and 3 other people have to enter the enclosure, point a hose at him, and spray him with water while he screams in a voice that sounds more like an owl's than a man's. You would think I would relish this, a small amount of revenge for my friend's death. But I don't. I don't hate the Sloth Man. I feel sorry for him. I hope the Sloth Man dies soon, for his sake, not mine. But, I don't think something like that ever dies.